So moral of the story is we are real ass people just like everybody else with our real ass everyday problems. And we're no different than anybody else. You know, we're just maybe more willing than most to talk about it.
Hello and welcome to the Pillow Talks podcast. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Xander Marin.
I'm a sex therapist with over 20 years of experience.
And I'm just a regular dude. We share the ups and downs in our relationship while giving you step-by-step techniques for improving yours.
Make sure you subscribe for your weekly double date full of totally doable sex tips, practical relationship advice, hilarious and honest stories of what really goes on behind closed bedroom doors, and so much more. It's the sex education you wish you'd had. Okay, babe. Today, we are going there.
Where?
There.
There? Where's there? Can't wait.
Today, we are doing another Ask Us Anything episode. We have done 2 of these episodes, so if you haven't heard any of them before, definitely scroll back and give them a listen. These are the episodes that I had a little bit of a mental block over, a personal hang up over. Our team told us, hey, let's do this. It sounds like a great topic. And I was like, I don't know. Does anybody want to hear a whole podcast episode about us? And
yep.
And it turns out you guys do. They were 2 of our most popular episodes, and we got such great feedback about them. So we decided we're going to take it up a notch, and we're going to do an extra spicy Ask Us Anything.
Ooh, how spicy? I like spicy.
We'll see. I mean, there were some very spicy questions. We put up a question box on Instagram, and we're like, okay, tell us, what do you really want to know? What are the most personal, the most intimate questions that you would love us to answer? Challenge us. We kind of wanted to push ourselves to see how far are we willing to go? How deep are we willing to go?
How far are you willing to go?
Where are
for
we
love.
willing to go? We have this list of questions, but we have not discussed them. Our team member put together the questions. They're all laid out in front of us, but Xander and I have not had a conversation about how we feel about any of these. So we're going to be going through this live. We'll see what comes up for each of us. We will see what the conversation how it ends up unfolding. This is all just one big, vulnerable, scary unknown.
Oh, boy.
And we are actually going to kind of see how we feel with each one. We've given each other veto power to do any last minute, I can't answer that. It's too much. I cut one question out already that I was just I can't. I don't want to go there.
It was ghost pepper spicy?
It was ghost pepper spicy. But I'm really going to challenge myself to answer all of the questions that are here, even though there are some pretty spicy ones.
Okay.
So, thanks to Dipsy for supporting Pillow Talks. Dipsy is an audio app full of short, very sexy stories, and you can get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/pillow.
We're going to get into it, but first, we have some breaking news, which is there will be no review of the week this week because our book, Sex Talks, is available for pre-order.
So what's the breaking news? That there's no review of the week, or that the book is available for pre-order?
It's both things.
It's both.
It's
2
both.
pieces of breaking news.
It's shocking. There's no review of the week. And it's amazing that our book is available for pre-order. I mean, we thought this day would never come, and yet here it is.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about the book a little bit. So our book, Sex Talks, is available right now, and we are so excited about this that we wanted to do something extra special for this. So until October 5th, so if you're listening to this podcast the day that it's released, it's about 2 weeks. Until October 5th, we are giving away a whole bunch of goodies if you pre-order the book now.
Arguably too many goodies.
Honestly,
you are making money by doing this, basically.
Okay, so this is really wild. We're just very excited about this book. So if you pre-order it before October 5th, you are immediately going to get our Dirty Talk 101 guide, which we sell for $69.
Yeah,
so
the book costs less than that. I can't tell you exactly because it probably depends where you buy it and the tax and and shipping and stuff, but probably like
a third.
like $25 or so.
That's why this is wild. Like, you buy something, you get something of a way higher value immediately.
But that's not all.
If you order in the next 15 minutes, we'll send you 2 copies. That's my my infomercial.
There is no like shipping and handling scam on this, by the way, for those of you that like the infomercials.
Shipping and handling. No, okay. So if you pre-order it before October 5th, you will get Dirty Talk 101 right away. You will get a free ticket to a Sex Talks virtual live event that we are going to be doing closer to the actual release of the book, and you are going to get a free workbook that will accompany the book that will help you like dive into it in even more detail. There's also a surprise. There are a bunch more surprises to come. I'm just going to leave it at that. So we are doing all of that for you if you pre-order the book. So you can go to book.vmtherapy.com. That's BOOK.
Thanks for spelling book.
I just want to make sure everybody knows.
It's, not the book emoji. Someone might put the book emoji in there.
Book.vm, my initials, therapy, therapy.com, book.vmtherapy.com. So go there, pre-order the book, enter your information. You'll get your goodies right away. You'll get some surprises as soon as you enter that information. It's going to be great.
All right, but hold up, Vanessa. Why do I actually want to pre-order a book that's coming out like months from now? It's coming out in February. By the way, like I'm like, okay, yeah, like you're giving me all this stuff, but like I'm going to have to wait forever. Like, how does this make any sense?
Okay, I'm glad you asked, Xander.
You're welcome. I told you off camera, off microphone that I'd tee you up, and I did.
Wow, we're like really getting into the infomercial vibe here.
You're getting some BTS, some serious behind the scenes.
We're so excited about this book that it's making us incredibly cheesy. Okay, but for real though, we did want to take a second to explain the whole pre-ordering thing, because I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever pre-ordered a book.
Neither have I.
Maybe I pre-ordered Harry Potter because I was just like so excited.
Oh yeah, but they were absolutely not giving you anything for free when you
I was
pre-ordered.
Just so excited. I was like, I want to have it the minute it comes out. But anyways, like I really didn't understand the whole pre-ordering thing until I wrote a book. And what I learned is that pre-orders are the best way to promote the book. It does so many things. So pre-orders are the only way that you can qualify for all of the bestseller lists. And I just want to be honest, like writing a book has been a lifelong dream for me. Getting on a bestseller list has been like, that would just be the cherry on top of the sundae. So it's the only way you can qualify for that, because basically they count all those pre-orders as first week orders. And that's what makes it look like, oh my gosh, look at how many people are ordering this book.
And again, getting on those lists in turn is how people that are totally not connected to us find out about the book, because it's hard to let people all across the country know, but people see those lists.
Yeah, absolutely. It also, all the pre-orders really signal to our publisher that this book is going to be successful. It helps them order more copies. It helps them sell more copies to different bookstores and book retailers. It also helps us get press opportunities so that we can promote the book and make it the biggest, possible release that it can be. So doing a pre-order, you get a discount on it on a lot of different places that you order. It'll just get sent to you, right when it comes out. So pre-ordering, it's really, not any more difficult for the purchaser, but it makes such a big difference for us as the authors. So that's also part of the reason why we wanted to give all these free goodies and all these surprises to you, is because it really is doing a favor to us. This is such a dream for us to be able to write this book and send it out into the world. And we're so excited about all the people and couples that it's going to help. So we would greatly, greatly appreciate your pre-order. It really means the world. And we promise we are going to make you pre-ordering, you're going to be so glad that you did it because of all the fun stuff we have planned.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the book is pretty fucking awesome.
Oh, the book is great, too. Yeah, it's not just like...
The book's no slouch. But our free package is really great. No, the book is the star of the show, people. The rest is the cherry on top. We just want to make it an absolute no-brainer.
So Thank you in advance for your pre-orders. It feels really cool to feel like we have this whole community of people behind us. We've been sharing the behind the scenes over on Instagram of the book the whole step of the way, and it feels so great to know that there's just like this army of people helping us get this book out into the world and bring more love and more orgasms into the world. Okay, so let's go there.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's see if you can remember the answer to this one. Most times you've had sex in one day.
I'm not certain of the answer to this. My best guess would be 3.
I am not sure either. I think 4 maybe. That was what I was going to guess.
All right, good for us. It would definitely, I feel like my answer would definitely be with you.
Oh, I didn't even... I didn't even consider.
I mean, we could consider past partners.
Oh.
I'm nearly certain.
That makes it extra
I'm nearly
spicy.
certain I've not done it 3 or more times with anybody else. I would imagine.
I hold your record.
I would imagine that it would probably be fairly early in our relationship. But
yeah, like the first
maybe
few months for
who knows?
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're not regular, like, multiple times in a day. It happens. It's actually been happening more often lately.
Oh, yeah.
Which has been a nice surprise. But typically we're not. But yeah, we tend to be pretty satisfied with, like, the one and done. It's the same way with multiple orgasms. We get that question a lot, so I guess I'm throwing that one out there too. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, how many orgasms do you go for in one session? And we both tend to be pretty happy with just one. Like, there's not a desire to keep going.
Yeah, well, I think for most men, there isn't really an option to keep going because of...
men of your age.
Men of my age, yes, sure. But yeah, typically, you don't love to keep going. I feel like early in our relationship, sometimes you would have multiple ones. And then I think we kind of like had a whole talk about it. And you were like, I actually don't really enjoy that so much.
Yeah. I mean, the way that my orgasms work, like I've definitely had multiple orgasms, but the way that my orgasms work is that each sequential one is less and less.
Each successive one.
Successive.
Sequential. Sequential is like in I mean, it makes sense, but nobody says that. You'd say each successive, like the next one and the next one and the next one.
All right, whatever. Each successive one gets less and less like intense and pleasurable. It just kind of feels like, I don't know. They're not as exciting. Like the first one is definitely huge and explosive and earth-shattering. So I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't really feel the desire to keep going, especially knowing that it's going to be like, okay. That one was fine. Anyways, yeah, I think the answer is 4. But
wow,
yeah,
hell yeah, good for us.
Okay,
I didn't give us that much credit. All right, Vanessa, have you ever slept with a friend of mine before dating?
Yes. I have. Xander knows about this.
You have, and I had to remind you. Of this.
Yeah, because we got a lot of like random kinds of questions, and it was like, oh yeah, there's no way for you to know, like for our listeners to know beforehand, like whether or not it's going to be a spicy question. Like a lot of them, we were just like, oh no, we don't have anything like fun to share about that. But then some of them were like, yeah, I was like, no, we haven't done that. And Xander was like, yes,
you have, I haven't. I have not, but you have.
I have. To be fair, it was like a very, very brief, like completely meaningless summer fling. And it was with somebody that you knew from like...
I knew from high school.
I didn't go to close friends.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like
I did not go to high school with this person. This person was good friends with one of my good high school friends, and so we hung out like I've hung out with this person probably like one-on-one a couple of times, but way back in the day. Vanessa and I discovered this like after we started dating.
Yeah,
and it was just like as we were kind of casually talking about some of our past flings, and Vanessa sort of like mentioned someone, or maybe like mentioned like his house or something, and I was like, this sounds really familiar to me. I know this person.
Not a super close friend.
And
it was a long time ago.
Yeah, way before I knew Vanessa, and way after I was actively in any kind of like real friendship with this person.
But also, like, one of those moments definitely where you're like, how is the world so small? How did I have this, like, random, very short-lived fling with somebody that you, like, were friends with?
Yeah. Though, you know what? That actually just made me remember something.
Oh,
no, I did not sleep with this person. I didn't have any sexual contact with this person. However, we remember we did discover when we were looking through, like, a middle school journal type thing. I went to middle school with someone you went to college with, and you actually knew kind of. Yeah. And like there was a moment, really a 1 day period, where it seemed like we kind of had a crush on each other, and she was like writing all these things in my little like graduation journal or something like that.
Oh, wait, but hold on. Also, when we met, you were sleeping with somebody who I was going to.
You later went to school.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
you later
went to school with this person. That's out of my hands. I knew her first. I went to school with her first. You went to school with her later, so that doesn't count. But, you know, the world is a small place.
It is. Okay, Xander, what is our most used sex position?
Can I answer with two answers?
Yeah.
I would say it's a pretty 50-50 split between missionary and cowgirl.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I guess if I had my way, like maybe it would be a little more cowgirl than missionary. I love cowgirl. I guess I'm a secret pillow princess. An undercover pillow princess.
We both like being on bottom.
We both like it.
Just be lazy. Do me. Yeah, we rotate between those two positions a lot, probably like every other time. But we do like to make variations.
Yes, we do.
To those positions. So it's like we fall back on those a lot, but we're always experimenting with like different angles, moving a limb, sitting up, changing things around. And like it actually feels really different.
Yeah, I feel like what's great about those two positions is they each afford you a number of variation possibilities. So it can really feel like even if you're just in cowgirl the whole time or just in missionary the whole time, there are a lot of different things you can do in each of those positions to make it really feel like you've gone through 3 or 4 different ones.
Okay, I will say though that I'm probably a little bit more adventurous with positions than you are. You like to find positions that like they work for you, they're really good, you enjoy them, and I'm a little bit more like, let's try it just for the sake of trying it. And I don't really care if it's like it's not the greatest position, it's like not hitting exactly the right angle. Like I enjoy trying it and like playing around with it just for the sake of playing around with it.
True. I think I'm a lot more open to that recently. In the past, I haven't been super open to that, admittedly, because I've gotten in my head for a very long time. I did get in my head about losing erections, and I think like trying new sex positions can be a stressful thing because it's way easier to lose your erection when you're in the middle of moving around positions, trying to get into position. And so like you're already like, oh, okay, like I'm moving around, like I'm not getting any stimulation. And then you get into some new position and like say it's not spectacular or it's like not super stimulating for you. It's sort of like a double whammy. And so in the past, you know, I had a whole complex about losing erections, and you know, feeling like, oh, my only way to give you what you need during sex or to perform like a man was to be rock hard and to finish that way. I've done a lot of work on myself and the way I think about that. And more recently, I think I've been a little more adventurous and like, yeah, I know, hey, yeah, if it isn't as hard as it was before, we got options for how to get it hard again. And if it's not getting hard again, like there are other things that we can do together to feel like we've had a successful sex.
For sure.
Success-filled session.
I feel like this is a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like we maybe should do an episode about performance issues, like from a man's perspective, because you've really had like, you have really gotten into your head about it. And like, it's interesting like hearing you talk about it because I'm sort of like putting myself in the position of the listener and I'm thinking like, it really sounds like you had a lot of performance issues. And the reality is you didn't. There weren't that many times where you actually like lost your erection or struggle to get hard or struggle to get orgasm. Like, it's a very tiny percentage.
But those few times, they stick with you.
I know. And that's what I think is so interesting to talk about, is like getting inside the head of a man.
The male head.
The big
Giving
head.
male
the
head.
mind. I realized what I was walking into right as I started saying that. But yeah, I think a lot of us women don't really understand that experience so much. Because to me, I'm like, this very rarely happened. I don't know why we're like talking about this again. But for you, like, I know that you got into your head and it got stressful and it was something that you were thinking about a lot. But so I just think that disparity is really interesting, of how stressed you got about it and how rarely it actually happened.
Yeah, I think a good parallel could be, because we hear about this from a lot of women who write in talking about initiating sex and being rejected or being turned down, and how that sticks with you. I think this is very akin to that. Like, a lot of women are like, yeah, like, I used to initiate all the time and then I got turned down once and I will never do it again. It was so awkward. It was so horrible. So it's like, if you think about that, okay, if you actually look at the number of times that this is happening, the percentage of times you end up feeling rejected, it's a really low percentage. But like, the one time it happens, you're like, oh God, that was so bad. I just can't ever think about doing that again. And I think it's kind of what it can be like for a lot of guys. You have, one or two kind of performance anxiety situations, and it just sticks in your mind, and it feels like a huge thing that's happening all the time, when in reality it's happening like 2% of the time.
Well, we do have a podcast episode specifically about how to navigate getting turned down for sex. So go back and check that out if you haven't listened to that already. And we'll also link to our sex position playbook. That was something that we really thought about in creating this playbook. It was how to transition in between positions in the most graceful way. That's such a weird word. In the best way, to minimize the lack of sensation, so minimize any potential performance issues. So we'll link that as well if you're interested in checking out more positions. Yeah,
we actually have a hack to completely help you avoid that experience of like, oh my God, how do we get into this position? Oh my God, I'm not getting stimulated. We have a really smart way for how to completely avoid that. And if you get the sex position playbook, you'll see exactly what it is. Okay, next question. Who initiates more often?
I'm debating how deep I want to go on this one.
Let's do it.
Okay, we've gone back and forth. We've had different seasons of our relationship. It's not always been consistent. I would say in this season of our relationship, you initiate more often than I do.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is something so many of the podcast episodes that we've created are because we've had our own history with things. We've gone through our own struggles and challenges. It's really important to us to be vulnerable and normalize some of the things that, that couples go through, especially in long-term relationships. I will say, I think our sex life functions a little bit better when you're the one who's initiating more often.
Interesting. Why?
We've had some challenges with we've had different seasons of our relationship where I've had the higher sex drive and seasons where you've had the higher sex drive. I think in general we're pretty evenly matched. But I just think that kind of going back to the getting into your head thing, I think that we've had periods of our relationship where you've gotten into your head about me having a higher sex drive.
Oh yeah.
And it's man, this is hard to talk about. I'm being very ineloquent now. But I think you've talked about how it's been so brainwashed and, socialized into your mind that the guy is supposed to have the higher sex drive. And even though we rationally understand that it doesn't need to be that way, it has brought up some insecurities for you when I've had the higher sex drive and I'm the one initiating more often. And so we talk a lot about how initiation is deeply vulnerable, and we think that it's something that couples should share. And we don't mean keep track of it and it has to be 50-50 every single time. So there are definitely times that I initiate, but I think that if I'm initiating a lot, it does send you back into that trickier headspace of am I having a higher sex drive at this point in our relationship than you are? And it just brings up some of those old feelings that are challenging to navigate.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, I think it's interesting. I look at it as a weird chicken or egg type of scenario. And here's what I mean by that. Like you said, we have been through periods where your sex drive was a lot higher and where you were initiating more. And we are in a period now where, it feels like I am initiating sex a lot more. A couple of years ago, I went through a hard time when it came to just dealing with like what that initiation disparity or that desire disparity, what that really was like for me. And I've done a lot of personal work on trying to deprogram a lot of that shit in my mind. And, I've done a lot of other, just personal work in terms of like figuring out what I want with my life, doing the things that make me happy. Part of that is surfing a lot, getting in better shape, being healthier. And so all of that work combined has, definitely increased my sex drive. I feel a lot more comfortable, with my sexuality. I feel a lot more comfortable like in my own skin. And I feel a lot more comfortable initiating sex. And you see that because I am initiating sex way more often. And so the reason I say it's a chicken or egg type thing is that it's like I have done a lot of work on trying to kind of break down that societal programming in my mind and along with other stuff. And that's really helped me increase my sex drive and initiate more. And so I am initiating more. And as I'm initiating more, it also feels easier for us at the same time. So it's hard to tell like, is it that I'm just initiating sex more and therefore things feel better between us? Or is it like I'm doing a better job not letting that stuff get into my head? And of course, I still have work to do. Yeah. We had an argument somewhat recently because something happened around sexual initiation, and I didn't respond to it so well. And but I'm very aware of exactly what was going on for me. I wasn't trying to rationalize it or like blame it on something else. It was like, oh yeah, that's that like social conditioning, and I'm feeling that. That's exactly what's coming up for me. So I still have work to do. Everyone always has work to do on this kind of stuff, but I feel a lot more comfortable with it. I'm way more comfortable just identifying it. Oh yeah, this shit again, it's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people get the impression that like we have this perfect sex life and that we share stories from the past of like challenges that we've had, but it's all smooth sailing now.
It's not.
And so I'm, even though this is obviously a little bit hard to talk about and I'm like struggling with it a little bit to talk about it, I'm glad that we're sharing it to just share like, we're still in the messy middle with certain things in our sex life too. It's not that everything's perfect and smooth sailing and we had those couple little road bumps in the beginning and now it's all perfect. It's not, we can't like wrap our story up in a tidy little bow like that. And
it's also never going to be perfect.
Oh, never. No. And I'll also take some ownership here of I have the exact same bullshit socialization that I've grown up my entire life being told that, women in male-female relationships are supposed to have the lower sex drive and I'm supposed to like respond to you and not really, have that much desire on my own. And so I've absolutely had times when it's felt like I have a higher sex drive than you in that season of life. Like that's been really hard for me. And I can, again, talk about it rationally all I want. Like it's normal for women to have higher sex drives. It's common. Let's talk about it. Let's normalize it. It's okay. And I still really fucking struggle in the moment when it's like, my brain is like, this is okay. It's okay for me to want it however much I want it. But there are also those voices in the back of my head saying like, no, this is not what women are supposed to be like. So it is a challenge for me too. And I think, it's something that we're continuing to navigate. So
moral of the story is we are real ass people, just like everybody else with our real ass everyday problems. And we're no different than anybody else. We're just maybe more willing than most to talk about it.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's lighten things up for a minute. Hottest place you've had sex? I have an answer, but I'm curious to know if we're going to have the same answer.
I have an answer. My answer is different from the answer that I feel like we get asked this question on Instagram sometimes, and we have given an answer a number of times, and I have a different answer.
Oh, okay. What's your answer?
My answer is in our little plunge pool of our at a certain hotel in the Maldives for our anniversary last year.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was pretty sexy.
That was sexy. There was definitely the risk of being caught or seen. I mean, it was because we were in the pool, like no one could have seen
what was going
seen
on?
like what was going on down
the
below.
Surface.
But yeah, I think that was probably the most voyeuristic thing we've done.
You're right. I forgot about that. I will update my answer to that. That was pretty hot. Before we get any further, we just want to tell you a little bit more about Dipsea. So Dipsea is an audio app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. We have been doing ads for them for a couple of weeks now, and we've been getting so many DMs from you guys saying that you used this free trial. It's 30 days, which is pretty awesome, but you've been using the trial and realizing that you are super turned on by hearing audio stories. I think it's something that a lot of people really connect to, and they just had never really realized it before. So Dipsea is like really pioneering this space, creating these incredibly hot erotic stories that you can listen to. One of the cool features that they have is they have some voice actors that you might recognize from other shows. Like I listened to some stories that were done by this guy from Insecure. I thought he was super hot on the show. His voice is super sexy. They also have stories like kind of in sequences, so you can listen to just short little bits like 10 to 15 minutes, or if you're really enjoying that particular story, like it tends to be part of a long series, so you can listen to like different episodes, like the story unfolds. So it's a really interesting experience. And again, listeners of the show can get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/pillow. I mean, 30 days to try it out completely for free. Like there's nothing to lose here. So why not try signing up and see if you're somebody who's really turned on by some audio erotica. So again, 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/pillow. That's dipseastories.com/pillow.
All right, now we're really going in, Vanessa.
Oh, God.
If the other changed their mind about wanting kids, would you reconsider your stance? So I guess let's answer it. Let's just be really clear. If I changed my mind, would you reconsider your stance?
Well, first of all, let's just say if you haven't listened to episode 37 of the podcast, definitely add that to your list. That is where we talk about our decision to be child-free. It's by far our most popular podcast to date. Okay, if you changed your mind about wanting kids, would you reconsider? So how do I say this? I would be willing to reconsider in the sense of like, I would be respectful of the fact that you've changed your mind. I would know that would be a really big deal for you to change your mind. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be willing to think about it again in that context, because I have never considered kids in the specific context of you wanting them and me not. So I would be willing to think about it again. But would I be willing to have a child?
I mean, it's too hard. It's too hard to say that.
Hard.
I mean, I think this is the really important thing is that Vanessa and I both differentiate between like the would we reconsider it as a couple? Like, would we open ourselves up to have that conversation of considering it? We separate that from the just like in a vacuum making the decision of, oh yeah, I'd have kids if she wanted them. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can really say that in a vacuum. You can't be like, oh, well, if she changed her mind, would I just say yes or no? It's like, no, like you gotta wait until you
other conversation.
Yeah, like you gotta wait until you get to that point where she is actually saying, you know what, I'm starting to think about this. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I just think it would have to be a different conversation. We've never had that conversation of one person wanting them and one person not. I will say though, like if I felt the same that I do right now and you had changed your mind, like I wouldn't have a kid just because you wanted them. Like to me, it's as much as I love you and we've built this life together and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, like to me, it's also a really individual decision. And vice versa. If I was the one who wanted kids and you really didn't, I would not want you to like neglect your truth and to agree to have, you know, 'cause we're not talking about something like, should we live in this city or that city? Should we buy this car or that car? Like we're talking about bringing a human life into this world. This is a really big thing, and it's not something that I would want you to compromise on. And I don't think I would want to compromise on it either. So I think it would put us in this really difficult position of us having to decide, like, what feels more important, this relationship or a child. And I would obviously be like devastated if you decided that a child was most important to you. And I would also honor that that's your truth, you know, and I would know that that would be a really hard decision for you to make. And so if you needed to like walk away from this relationship to do that, like, again, it would destroy me, but I would also understand it at the same time. And if you were to say, I really want a kid, and you know what, I've thought about it, and I would rather us be in this relationship and me not, you know, leave to pursue this dream, I would also have a lot of space for what a huge loss that would be for you.
Yeah.
And I hope the opposite would be true if those roles were reversed.
Yeah, definitely. I personally am not reconsidering my stance, but I would really seriously reconsider my stance if you were to change your mind about that.
If you still felt, oh God.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is where I am on it right now is that I'm not like a strong no. I'm not like, no, I can't have kids. I'm like, I'm really happy with where we're at. I'm not desiring having a kid. That being said, I'm not desiring having a kid, if that makes any sense. So yeah. And I mean, we've talked about this a bit, but just, you know, things have changed for me a lot personally over the last couple of years in terms of just how I see myself in the world and how I feel about myself. And I think there was a time in the past where I probably subconsciously really worried about my ability to be a good father. And I don't feel that way anymore. That being said, I'm not feeling like, oh my God, I need to have a kid.
I feel like we would be great parents.
Yeah.
I don't have any doubt in my like ability to be a good parent, but it just comes back to the question of desire for me. But yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to know what would happen if we got into that situation, but
yeah, it is.
I just want to set a little bit of a boundary here. Like, please don't DM us saying that you think that we secretly want to have kids or we should have kids. Like, I know that we do talk about our decision to be child-free pretty openly, and we have gotten pretty comfortable with that decision. And it still feels so deeply vulnerable, and it's hard for us to talk about. And so I know that might sound harsh sometimes when I say, like, don't DM us, but we do get a fair amount of DMs from people saying, like, I think that you guys should have kids, or I can tell that Xander secretly wants them and you don't. And it's, you know, we just get sent a lot of crap, and it's like, it's really hard to read. And even sometimes when people are sending it with the best of intentions, like, I think you guys secretly both want to, and you'd be such great parents. Like, even when we know that you guys have nothing but like kind thoughts in your hearts, like, it's still really hard to read stuff like that. So just wanted to give a little bit more context and explain that, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, now we're going to do a real pivot here. We're going to go from talking about kids into anal sex. Do you regularly have anal sex?
Well, short and quick answer is no. We do not regularly have anal sex. We have had anal sex a couple of times, like a long time ago, and we found that we preferred like other aspects of anal play better than anal sex. And we stick to PIV for intercourse, and occasionally implement other aspects of anal play.
Yeah, I mean, we tried it, and it was I think one time was a really enjoyable experience. One time was kind of like an okay experience. And we discovered after that, though, that we both really enjoy anal play. And that brought us like a lot more pleasure and enjoyment. It was easier, like the whole thing. So that was actually like one of the big pieces of inspiration around creating our butt stuff guide, which is our newest guide, is that we realized so many people think butt stuff and you just immediately think anal intercourse. And that's not the only way to do butt stuff. And definitely for us, it was the case that actually like anal sex was not the most pleasurable. We enjoyed anal play a whole lot more. So we'll link to our butt stuff guide in the show notes too.
All right, I guess kind of in the same vein, so to speak. Do we have a sex room?
So we've been getting this question a lot because of that Netflix show. The answer is no, we don't. We do not have a sex room.
Unless you count our bedroom. We have a lot of sex in our bedroom versus other places. We basically don't really have sex in other places of our house. Though where we live now, we absolutely could.
I mean, we don't have the space to like create a whole sex room.
Oh,
no.
No.
If you guys want to like buy some more foreplay guides and more butt stuff guides, then maybe we could afford to make a sex room.
Oh, no. What I meant is we could absolutely have more sex in other rooms of our house that aren't our bedroom.
And who is the main person who holds us back from that?
Me. It's me. Well, you know what?
It's very similar to the positions.
True.
You enjoy it the most. I think you're somebody who you like to find what is the peak experience and you replicate as many of those things as you can. Whereas I'm like, yeah, having sex, okay, we had sex on our kitchen, countertop basically a couple weeks ago, and it was objectively it was not incredible sex. It was a difficult position, we weren't exactly at the right angle. It wasn't the most pleasurable sex we've had, but I loved it because I like being in a different location and trying something different. Whereas for you, you're the bed is just so much more comfortable. I would rather be in the bed, and I'm yeah, I would rather be in the bed too, but I'm willing to have a less ideal experience for the novelty of it.
Yeah, I mean, my challenge was I was I'm not sure that I can come like this.
You in particular were in a really tough angle.
Yeah, I was at a tough angle, and I was I'm not sure I can get there like this, so let's move somewhere where I can, please. So, I'm just advocating for myself, my own pleasure.
And I'm not saying there's no right or wrong.
No.
If we only had sex the way that you wanted it to, we would have great sex every time because you're all about what's the peak ideal experience. And so that's not any better or worse than me being I'm willing to risk a little bit of the pleasure for the novelty aspect. It's just two different approaches. And I think we do a good job of balancing each other out and having the kind of sex that each other wants to have.
I would also like to blame our dogs though. Because if we didn't have the dogs, then I feel like we would just be fucking all over the house. Because the challenge, right? So we put our dogs. We have a walk-in closet that doubles as the dog's room, where they sleep.
The dogs have a room. We don't have a sex room.
The dogs have a very nice room. It's really nice. It's carpeted. They have a really plush bed in there. There is heat and air conditioning in that room. There's windows in that room. It's a great bedroom for the dogs. It allows them to sleep comfortably, snore as much as they want without bothering us. And it's connected to our bedroom. So it's really, we have to put our dogs away because we do not have the type of dogs that allow you to just have sex and they don't bother you. So, we have to put our dogs away, and where, the easiest place to put the dogs away is into their room, which is in our room. So, I guess we could definitely do it around the house more if it was just okay, let's put the dogs away. Let's walk down to their room, put them away, and then walk back to where we were. So, I don't know. It's a challenge. We'll report back and see if we're doing it all over the house more.
Okay, who's louder?
That is a really good question. So there was a time when I would have said me, but I think you are now.
I have an answer. I have a more specific answer. I'm louder noise-wise.
Okay.
And you're louder talking-wise.
I'm more verbose.
You're more verbose.
You're louder. I'm more verbose.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, that I 100% agree.
And I enjoy that.
With that. Yeah, the funny thing, I'll just throw in something extra here that nobody asked. But I'm realizing that I really like making noise during sex, but I don't like the idea that other people might hear us. And so if we have our windows open, I find myself getting really in my head, and I see that you don't.
No, I don't care.
Vanessa does not care at all. And similarly, like when we are at a hotel, I find myself actually feeling a little more reserved.
Oh, hotel, I'm like going fucking nuts.
Vanessa does not give a shit. Like,
no, but what the weird thing is that you don't like it when I'm quiet, because we have had time, like, we're making me sound like I'm totally disrespectful. Like, if I know there are people around who like when we're at my parents' house, like, I'm not gonna be screaming or anything like that.
It's an out of sight, out of mind thing.
Yes.
No, for Vanessa at a hotel, she's like, I have plausible deniability. Yeah. I never saw anyone go in or out of that room.
Nobody sees me. Nobody knows who I am. Like, I'm not trying to like have sex and be screaming at like 3 a.m. Like,
we're having sex. Wake up and listen.
I am a respectful person about it, but if it's like a normal hour, I just don't put any thought into like, oh, let me be quiet because maybe there's somebody in the room next door and maybe the walls are thin. Like, I just whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, we have had times like when we're having sex at my parents' house where I'm quiet because I'm being respectful and you don't like it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a motherfucker about this one. I'm a little.
You really don't like it when I'm quiet.
I'm a little bitch about this one. It's like if you're too quiet, it doesn't work. If you're too loud, it's no good. So I'm just full of contradictions here. And I will be the first to admit it. I have some work to do on just letting myself go when someone might overhear me because like we were talking about that pool in the Maldives. That was hot. Like that was really hot. Usually I'm not into voyeuristic.
Yeah.
I like that because it was like, okay, like no one's gonna like see our genitals, but people could absolutely see us like grinding up on each other
above the water. It just looked like we were like hugging, but there was nobody like immediately around, invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, though, I will say in terms of pure volume. You have been known sometimes at orgasm to really let out some loud ones.
Well, and this is why we shouldn't. This is, why we should do cowgirl more than missionary. Because it's only in missionary that this is a problem. I am scared I'm going to blow out Vanessa's ears.
Oh, yeah. They have been blown out several times. Like you get your face down in my ear and then it's like screaming. And also we had like the funniest thing happen a couple of weeks ago when we had sex.
Oh my God, I'm never going to hear the end of this one. We finished,
and Xander was really nervous that he had blown my eardrum out because he's done that a few times and it's been really bad. And he was like stuttering over his words and so nervous. And he was trying to ask me like, did I scream too loud? Did I scream too loud? And I was like, no, it's okay. You were fine. Like, it was not that loud. And he said...
Well, we're going there.
I got squirted.
Yeah, I said I got squirted, and I started saying I was in my head. I couldn't decide if I was saying I got scared or I was worried, and I said I was squirted. Squirt. I probably didn't. I probably didn't say like I got. I probably didn't say squirted all the way, but it was like I got squirt. Like I didn't know where I was going.
I don't know if this is going to be funny to anybody else, but
yeah, I don't know.
I almost peed my pants laughing.
Yeah, I was in the midst of my. I don't know if anyone else is a fan of the show The League, but I was in the midst of my vinegar strokes, and I was not really thinking what was coming out of my mouth, and that was funny. All right, Vanessa. Brass tacks here. Have you tried all the things, all the advice in our guides?
Mostly.
I mean, I feel like we can't like in good conscience say 100% of the things guaranteed.
I mean, I think we try. So we do take this very seriously. Like we test out as much stuff as we can personally. Like the sex position playbook that we already mentioned, that comes to mind in particular. Like we put a lot of work into that. Like
we did.
Testing all the positions out because we wanted to get super detailed with our advice of like, here's exactly how to move. Here's exactly how you get into it. Exactly how you get out of it, how you like what positions work well to transition in and out of it. So we tried everything in that. We tried everything in the foreplay guides. The one thing that's coming to mind is like with butt stuff. There are a few things covered in butt stuff, like more advanced things, like I've never pegged you, those kinds of things that we haven't tried necessarily. But if there's anything that we haven't tried, we do a ton of research, and we also get feedback from other people. And with butt stuff in particular, we did a whole round of beta testers, like asking people to try things out so we could get a sense of like what worked and what didn't. But I would say, 95% of what we recommend, like, we've tried.
Yeah, I think the thing here is that, like, sometimes there are certain things that don't really work well for us, or that aren't applicable to us, or where perhaps, like, we have a 1 foot height difference between the two of us. So there might be certain things that just don't work very well, or just aren't possible for us. And so, that's why we get feedback from other people. It's like, oh, Vanessa knows from working with tons of couples in her private practice in the past, like, this works for a lot of couples that are struggling with X, Y, or Z. And that might be something that we can't try, or just isn't a good fit for us. The goal of our business is not like, here's how we have sex, you should do that too.
Yeah.
Like, we're not trying to be like, I don't know, sex influencers, where it's just like, do everything the way we do it. It's like, here's what we do, here's what works for us, here's what doesn't work for us, and here's what works for other people as well. So we try to give advice that, is going to work for as many people as possible. And if it doesn't work for you, here are a couple alternatives that either we do or that other people give us good feedback about.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What is your favorite role play? Is it the milkman? Is that why you went so hard on the milkman in our role-playing episode? It's another one to check out if you have not listened to that one yet.
This is a good question. I should request role plays from you more often, because I'm not sure I really ever have. Have I?
I'm the one who's more into role playing.
You are more into role play. If I'm thinking about it, I do love any kind of scenario where, like, I guess, like, where you kind of take control. Mm-hmm. Or, like, where you come on to me. So perhaps any kind of thing where you just met me, or you're just coming over for the first time.
I want to do that all the time, and you're like, I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm up for it now. I don't want to do that. Okay. It's
you
not
don't
that
want to do the strangers meeting in a bar
It's
thing.
not, yeah, it's like, I'm not into like the lead up of, like, oh, I have to, like, pretend to, like, ask all these random questions.
You just want to get straight to the fucking.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, I think what you like is when I play up certain aspects of my personality, but you don't necessarily like to try on, like, be totally different people.
Yeah.
But you're more turned on by, like, oh, let me be super bossy or aggressive, or let me be, like, super submissive, or, that kind of thing. But it's not like, you're not turned on by, like, oh yeah, play the, like,
I don't know.
The first example that came to my mind was, like, the naughty schoolgirl kind of thing, and then I was like, no, that's too weird. Why is that the only thing I can think of now? Like, you don't like me to pretend to be the nurse, the naughty nurse kind of thing.
I could get down with that.
Okay.
We're gonna have to try this.
We have a lot of action items after this episode. Yeah, we're gonna have to
report back. We gotta do, like, a report back version on this episode. We got some action items for sure. But what about you, Vanessa? Vanessa has a very specific one that she loves.
I really do. I like it when you play a masseuse.
No, a specific type of masseuse.
A naughty masseuse.
Yes.
Who gets a little handsy.
And I'm good at that one.
She's very good at that one. Okay, last question. How do you identify sexually?
I'd say I'm pretty darn straight. I've thought about it a lot.
You've made the space for you to not be so straight.
I've made the space. I've played in college, I think once or twice, played a, like, pansexual spin the bottle game. I did kiss a guy or two. It wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. They were both my gay friends of mine, and we both came away from it being like, oh God, like, both of us were like, let's never do that again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you have just, like, made the space for you to be like, yeah, I'm open to whatever, but you're very straight.
I'm open to it. It never comes around.
So my answer is a little more complicated. I actually put a label on myself for the first time in the book. The book is very fresh on my mind since we are doing a lot of pre-orders right
Since
now.
you have it in your hand
I
now,
know.
since yesterday. We got
Just
a box
this
of
week.
our books. It's so cool.
Yeah, there is a book highlight on Instagram if you missed us unboxing our book for the very first time. But we have a section at the very beginning of the book where we talk about inclusivity and kind of talk about some of our biases in the way, our privileges in the ways that we kind of look at the world and all of that. And so we're identifying different aspects of ourselves. And I decided to use the term, I've never heard anyone else use it before. I'm sure somebody else has come up with it, but I used the term hetero-ish. And that I kind of stumbled upon it in the moment, just in the midst of writing. And I was like, this feels exactly like what I am, hetero-ish. So I'm just really attracted to people, honestly. Like, I find people of all genders attractive and interesting and sexy.
Which on the surface might suggest like pansexual.
But I've just never resonated with that term. And I also, I am very into men. So, yeah, I've never really resonated with bisexual or with pansexual. Hetero-ish just felt like, yeah, that feels right. So I've had sexual experiences with women, pretty tame, honestly, just to second base kind of thing. And honestly, I probably would have explored a lot more had you and I not met at a very young age.
Oh, so it's my fault.
It's not your fault. I would have explored more, but yeah, I mean, I am not left with the feeling of there's this whole aspect of my identity that I never explored or I never got the chance to. It just sort of feels like, yeah, I mean, I had some experiences with women. I enjoyed it. And, then I met my person, and that just was the timing of how it worked out. But yeah.
She locked that shit down.
I locked it down. So yeah, I think is the best word to describe me. Hetero-ish. Mostly hetero, but space for a little ish. All right. That's the end of our questions.
We did it. Was it spicy enough?
How much have you blushed today?
A bit. A little bit. A little blushy.
A little blushy.
I've blushed-ish.
There was one thing that we ended up cutting from this episode.
You'll never know what it is until the next one.
So we hope you enjoyed this. It's honestly, it's been fun to be. I don't know if fun's the right word.
You didn't sound like you believed it as you said it. I was like, I kind of wanted to call you out right then. I was like, let's see where she goes with this.
It was not fun.
Been fun.
I am sweating a little bit. I definitely blushed. But no, here's a better way to say it. I'm glad that we pushed ourselves to be extra vulnerable and to talk about some things that we're still in the messy middle of, some things that have challenged us in the past, some things that are hard to admit or hard to talk about. I'm glad that we did it. It's been a valuable experience.
Yeah, I agree.
I think vulnerability is important. I think these kinds of open and honest conversations are important. And I'm glad that we were both willing to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you for being vulnerable. Thanks. I enjoy being vulnerable with you.
Oh, thanks.
Makes
babe.
me feel closer to you.
Oh, ditto.
And to all you listeners who are experiencing it with me, whom I can't see, but you're there nonetheless.
Okay.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to say that's it for today's episode of Pillow Talks. Thank you so much for listening. Join us again next week when we talk about something totally different, sex and pain.
I really have to stop. It's the therapist in me. You're so trained to just do this, yeah.
But instead of inviting me to say more, that's literally the end of the podcast. So we're gonna leave you on.